Okay, with George Sarantopoulos, Inheritance is the poem. We made it into a movie. It's about a son. I guess it's a son who hasn't been born yet. Is that's how I'm looking at it. But you tell me.
Yes, correctly. I mean, I'm been blessed with a daughter, but I haven't had a son yet. We've been trying for a while, but I've raised my wife's brother, so I have a stepson. So maybe some of these lessons have been imparted upon him, but I don't have that son yet.
So your
Uh,
wife's brother, but that's your brother-in-law.
yeah, I raised them from 13 on.
Okay, so you call him your stepson.
Yeah, because like, look, Father's Day's coming and he's going to be taking me out, so he feels the same too.
Gotcha. And you want to have a son. It doesn't guarantee even if your wife gets pregnant, it doesn't guarantee you're gonna have a son.
No, I think there's a 50-50 shot at that,
Yeah,
but
that's what
yeah,
I hear. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So we'll try. We're trying.
So what motivated you to write this poem then?
I think there's an uncomfortable truth that we don't want to tell our children, whether it's a son or daughter, that this world that we live in, it's a beautiful world, it's a comfortable world. I mean, at least, if you live in North America, right?
Mm.
But there's a part of this uncomfortable truth that it's built on violence too, unfortunately. It didn't come about just, by consensus. There's wars that have been fought. There is times that people had to take up arms, and it's this uncomfortable truth that there's a part of this world that's been built by violence.
You wrote in the poem, there's something in the world will expect you to understand. This world is made by killers. That's what you and
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the people that we rely on, it's like it's what's that movie with Jack Nicholson, right? We want that person on the wall. We want that person at the tower to protect us, right? We want
you talk about Few Good Men.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that was the movie. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh we want we
Tito
you
the
know,
Code Red.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah, we hate that guy. We really hate that guy.
yeah.
We hate the code red. We hate the guy. We want him to go to jail. But the uncomfortable truth is people like that keep our country safe every day, and do I agree with his methods? Absolutely not. But there's this need for people in our society that protect us, you know.
It's funny because he's the antagonist in that movie, right? So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, I don't agree with his methods, but
yeah.
we want when things get real, you want somebody like that protecting us.
Yeah, that becomes another like ideological, like are Americans' lives more valuable than other people's lives, right? So like, but that's like the ideological kind of area because yeah, you're the country's being protected, I guess, right? And they're doing probably like horrible things to protect your like the country, I guess, right?
Well, I guess that's the central truth in my poem, right? There's this
Yeah.
uncomfortable truth that things were done in maybe our country's name, or maybe our soldiers had to do stuff to
Well, of
protect our
course, yeah.
country that we really don't want to hear about.
Well, they're trying to erase history. If you want to get into a political argument, yeah, they're literally trying to do that right now, right? So
I
that's
mean, there's a even World War II, right? Um, everyone was like, "Oh, that's a 100% just war," right? We all agree with
that's
that,
shades of
right?
gray, I guess, right? There was a true
But
villain. Yeah.
but there was a memo sent out by Eisenhower to the troops, to the leadership, to the
Mhm.
different, captains and whatever, said, "We need more prisoners. We need more management to come in and be interviewed and be, interrogated." So what was going on is a lot of times we were capturing these Nazi cohorts and we were shooting them on the spot. We weren't even bringing them in for interrogation. So
Yeah.
basically, there's this memo that Eisenhower sends out, basically saying, stop shooting these guys. We need them because we need to interrogate them to find out, where the bad guys are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, that's an uncomfortable truth as Americans we don't want to hear, but that's the reality of war.
Well, that's probably of all the things that yeah, that's probably the down the list of like bad things the Americans have done in war, right? So I don't listen. They even talk about it in you're talking about movies. Save a Private Ryan, like he lets the guy go, right, and then he ends up killing the guy later. Spoiler alert later on, but it's like they should have killed him, even though it wasn't part of the war rules, right? But did kill that guy?
Well,
Why not?
listen, even in modern war, right? We
Yeah,
send a drone over, right, and we kill the terrorists, right?
yeah,
Okay, great. I'm with you 110%.
yeah,
But there's collateral damage. Like
sure.
that's the uncomfortable truth that we don't want to talk about. And that is making possibly the next generation of
Well,
terrorists.
that's what happens. It happens right. It's happening right now with Iran. You don't think that they're not going to forget this? You don't think they're not? It's been going on in the Middle East for centuries. You don't think that when they October 7th, when they bombed Israel and they bomb them back, and then they all remember like how bad each other is, and it keeps going on through generations, right?
I'm a little more libertarian on this. I think we get involved with these Middle East countries, and it's just we just keep going down the rabbit hole and just
Of
gets worse
course,
and worse.
yeah, that's a good argument, and I know it's more nuanced than that, but it's like leave them alone. Let them. It's just they're doing what they're doing forever. Like it's like well,
It's
nothing's
the
been changed, right?
analogy, right?
Yeah,
You. It's the analogy of when you're a kid, right? And you break this vase that your parents have, and you try to glue it back together.
yeah,
No matter how much you try to glue it back together, it is never going to be the same, right? And it's
and it won't be better, right?
it won't
Won't be-
it won't be better. It's
yeah,
actually worse, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So
But yeah,
but
no,
anyway,
100%. No, but but then you're like telling your like, but also that like you start the film like that, but you're kind of giving the son advice, right? Like you're part of me, right? But then you have to like protect your mother, protect your sister, protect your wife, protect your children. So when it comes, hold the line, stand fast. That's the last line of the poem, right? When the moment comes,
that's
hold the line,
absolutely.
stand fast. What does that mean?
Well, look, uh, you have an obligation, a duty. I think we, in this age of individualism, we forget our duty to our family to protect our mother, our sister, our daughters. Without being a misogynist, sexist, whatever, there's as men, we have a duty to protect the women in our life, and I don't think that is, that could still acknowledge that without taking away women's agency, men are just better at violence that need to step up sometimes and protect the women in our life.
Yeah, but that,
Uh,
yeah, I guess yeah, that makes sense from a physical standpoint, I guess, right? But also,
yeah, I mean, listen, it's something you'd want to say to a son. Remember, this is a letter to a son, right? So you need
yeah,
to honor your family, remember where you came from, remember your mother, remember your sister, remember, you're going to have daughters one day. You got to protect them. That's important.
and that's what you do as a dad, I guess, right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there a little bit of your father in this poem?
Yeah, my father served in the military. He he was a Greek American immigrant, came to the United States, and he was proud to serve in the US military. He repaired helicopters. He learned. I mean, it's not what he ended up doing the rest of his life, but they taught him a trade.
Yeah,
He was proud on the work he did. He didn't grab a gun and go out there and lead a platoon or anything like that, but he was proud of the work he did to support our guys out there. It was during the '60s, so it was not an easy time to be a soldier.
so he was part of Vietnam then, or
They asked him to go there. They offered to promote him, and my dad was like, my dad was situated in Panama in South America,
yeah,
and they offered to fly him. They offered to promote him like a couple levels up and send him to Vietnam. My dad's like, I think my time is done here. I got a couple more months, and I think and he was hearing these guys from Vietnam would come back, and he said he would hear them, and he would hear the horror stories there, and he was like, and that these guys were not getting the support they needed to be out there and do the job successfully, and he was like, I'm not signing up for that. That's like a meat grinder.
Yeah, well, but it's interesting too because in the context of that time is that the Americans had never really lost a war. They were always successful in their wars, and there was always kind of like even Korea, like
Well,
it
were
made
they? Was
sense,
Korea
right?
successful? I mean, they were hoping to take the whole peninsula.
No, but what I'm saying is that what I'm saying the context is that you served. There was no gray area, generally speaking, right? Like I wasn't born then. I just but historically is taught me that was like it was tough not having that kind of point of view of Vietnam even back then is like your father because it was like you serve because that's what Americans do and they always are right in that you know what I mean in that gray in that kind of point of view, right? So
Yeah, I mean, just think about what the repercussions were, right? They were so desperate for leadership that they spent all
yeah,
these years training my dad how to repair helicopters, but they were willing to promote him to lead a platoon in Vietnam.
yeah,
To That's how desperate they were for manpower,
yeah,
and the situation probably was a lot grimmer in terms of manpower than they let on at the time.
yeah, 100%. So, how are you like? When did you start getting into poetry? When did you start writing poetry?
Uh, I've always been a writer, writing, corporate reports and press releases. And then a couple of years ago, I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. I had stage 3, stage 4 prostate cancer, depending on what doctor you speak to. Doctor has given me, at the time, were giving me about 80-90% chance not making 5 years. And I just went into a spiral of depression. I was going to Columbia Presbyterian for treatment here in New York, and they had a program to see a therapist, specifically for cancer patients. Great program. If one of your viewers or anybody listening to this podcast ever goes through it and you're feeling really depressed, I highly recommend you go see a therapist. A lot of hospitals offer that. And she worked with me and got me to a good place mentally. And I think writing was part of that. And I started writing poetry because poetry it's very clean, it's very short. So the truth is going to come out how you feel about things. It's
Mhm.
not fiction. It's not a novel, a novella, or whatever. You're going to, for poetry to work, it's got to be the truth and nothing but the truth. And that's when it works best, in my opinion. And just started writing from there a couple of years ago, and it's been part of the healing process. I beat back the cancer. I had another cancer issue that we just recently got operated on. I think without writing, I don't think I could have made it.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. That's kind of amazing. And but you never wrote like when you were younger. I know you said you wrote press releases, but you never wrote this type of kind of
I mean,
quote.
look, I would write comic book scripts and things like
Yeah,
that and screenplays, but I never really did poetry until like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
that's amazing. And then so, how many poems have you written? Do you think?
I'm probably about 45, 50
That's
that
amazing.
I'm very confident of. I mean, obviously there's fragments. I have these little notebooks that you get, and I'll record a thought like "The world is made by killers."
Yeah.
That started as a fragment. You're right, and I wrote it in a notebook, and then I just built on from there.
And this is the poem that like you like, and then it became about your son, I guess. Your
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like, why the world was made by killers? Who would I be telling this to? And then I just built it from there backwards.
which is interesting because like especially in this generation, like I have two kids, I have a son, and there's that trigger to like protect the kids, right? Like to not to kind of coddle them and not tell them bad things and like and not and kind of like but you're telling him right away before he was born like this is what you need to do, you got to be a, it's like you're telling him to be a man, right? Like it's like
I remember growing up and
yeah,
you'd bike and you'd skin your knees, right? And they'd
yeah,
be all bloody and stuff, right, as a kid.
yeah,
And you would just shake it off. You'd be like,
take it
there'd be
off, yeah,
dirt on there, there'd be dirt on there, there'd be bleeding, right?
yeah,
You just skinned your knees, you just fell off your bike or whatever. Now parents would be like, "Oh my God, I got to take you to urgent care. What's going on? Let me get some bacitracin on it or whatever, because there's an infection." Like
yeah.
it's just shocking to me how we're making our children soft, and the repercussions of that down the line are life is tough, and when life serves you up curveballs, are you going to be able to handle it? I mean, there's a consequence of us coddling our children.
It's the
Um,
participation trophy analogy, right? Like every kid gets a trophy even if you come in last place, right?
Listen, I'm guilty of it too. I'm not sending my daughter to a Spartan war camp, right? She's
No,
13,
no,
so
yeah, yeah, I know, but
I'm not going to say I'm so tough myself, but I'm just saying we are coddling these children a little too much. And I believe there's a consequence 10, 15, 20 years down the line when life is not working out for them and life's serving them up curveballs and they didn't get that promotion they wanted, their kid is sick, they're fighting with their spouse. Uh, we are not making them strong to deal with
well, you're
those
seeing it
issues.
now, right? Like the generation who's in university right now, you're seeing it now that they're like a lot of them. Like I'm being general, of course, but a lot of them are not prepared for the future, right? Like there, a lot of them are like sitting in their parents' basement, pardon, and not doing anything because they're scared of life. They can't even talk to girls.
Well, I that's funny you should say
Yeah,
that because I ran for office last year and I had a bunch of young volunteers, and a lot of these young guys are afraid to talk to women. Like
yeah,
just, and I don't know. I mean, you can have a nice conversation without it being into creepy territory. Like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing Friday? Let's go out for coffee, whatever. It's just these young men are afraid,
yeah.
and it doesn't bode well for civilization. That's
This
what I
is
can tell you.
they said this is the generation that's ever like even in the very religious times of our past where there's God fearing people, like nobody's having sex, nobody's having sex anymore because
I think
yeah,
even
yeah,
I think even back in those religious times, if you were interested in a woman, obviously you would go out on a date with her and the whole family, right? And then
yeah,
they would, I think we saw this in The Godfather, right? And when he's courting Apollina in Sicily, right? So the whole family goes out with them on this getting to know you date, right? And
yeah,
obviously there's no touching, kissing, or anything. I
yeah,
think there's more of that back then than there is now. Like now it's young men are afraid, you know?
yeah. So yeah, so then like it is interesting. But what I noticed too is that like I have young children, and then if a kid like a mom you see at the park, and the mom's like, oh no, you like use the analogy of oh you scraped your knee, and the kids kind of feed off of that attention, right? Like next time they go out, it's like oh I fell off the I fell off the swing or whatever like that. Mommy, my arm hurts, and the mom comes in and it's like, and they love that kind of like attention, right? And it's like then if you just said at the beginning, it's like rub some salt, like whatever, let's rub it off and go back and play with your friends. Then that's like a better,
I mean, that's what we used to do, and it builds character. It
yeah,
builds. So
hundred
getting
percent,
back to the poem, I guess, dealing with COVID, dealing with cancer, I needed some outlet. So writing has been that. I mean, in the last couple of years, I've written a lot of poetry, short fiction. I mean, obviously, there's going to be more published as time goes. Uh, and poetry, you're always fine tuning it. You'll look at something 100 times before you're happy that it's out in the wild. And it's talking about these issues. I feel that, we've gotten comfortable. That's the best word,
Yeah.
you know?
This is like obviously great therapy for you too, right? Like just kind of just writing it down, writing your feelings and thoughts. Like it's profound. And then wouldn't you want?
By the way, I got to give you the punchline. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I'm doing well now on the cancer. So.
No, well, you're
So,
talking to me. I figured it. I figured as much. I apologize for not. Yeah.
no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no. I
Sensible.
also want
Yeah.
to give your audience hope that, they might give you the worst diagnosis ever, right? You might
Yeah.
just don't ever give up. Don't.
Well,
Just don't.
people are. I'm fortunate enough to see a lot of documentaries and stuff, and people are making movies about your kind of case where like it's the emotional kind of therapy, right? Like nobody doctors' jobs are to talk about like the physical, right? That's their job. Is like so you have cancer. What's the physical thing that we can do to make you feel better, right? And the emotional doesn't never gets talked about because we don't really know much about it as species yet, right? But we're learning. And so
Well,
everything that you're saying, it makes so much sense to me. We're like, think about what that's doing to your soul, your body, right? You're healing something, right? By writing and expressing yourself. You have to be, right?
listen, one of the doctors, and I'm not saying he did anything wrong, but one of the drugs that they gave me for chemo
Yeah.
makes you depressed. I didn't hear about that until after in therapy from a different doctor. And I'm like, why wouldn't they tell me that? So I'm, kind of mentally prepared for it. Like, because, you start having these terrible thoughts, when you're going through cancer and you start
Yeah.
spiraling and, you wonder, are these my thoughts? It would have been helpful to say, hey, this drug might give you a little depression. I wouldn't have said no, I still need it, right? But they don't prepare. A lot of these doctors are not prepared for the mental aspect of going through this type of illness, and they're great at what they do. But if you're going through this, I cannot stress it enough. Go take advantage of any therapist or any kind of
Mhm.
psychologist that a hospital offers to help you deal with this, because I guarantee you the result will be a lot better with a better mental state.
Yeah. I think some people would rather get shot, like drugged and not and prodded with their arms than talk about their feelings, right? So it's not easy talking about your feelings and like expressing yourself to a therapist or even like you do on paper. This is not an easy thing to do. This is difficult because there's a lot going on, right? So
Well, I'm definitely a lot more truthful post cancer than I was before cancer. I mean, I wasn't a liar. I'm not saying I was a liar, but I'm just saying a little more forthcoming with what I feel, what I'm thinking.
I noticed that with my mother-in-law. She had cancer and she passed, but her last year she was just like, fuck it. I'm just gonna say everything that I'm really feeling, right? So
Yeah, it definitely makes you do that. There's no
yeah,
question about it.
yeah.
Hopefully, I'm not dying, but
No, what I'm trying to say is that like it's just
hmm.
like because you put it puts things in perspective, right?
You think about the time, you think about your mortality, you think about
Yeah.
your legacy, right? So, that's what poetry captures, that truth, if you're doing it right, you
Yeah,
know.
well, you're doing it right. I love this poem. I think it's fantastic. So you're on your way. Uh,
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time, appreciate your candor, and keep writing. And you're inspiring. You're an inspiring person to keep doing that because it's easy to say that I'm going to write, and it's easy to say that I'm going to do this, but easier said than done, right? To kind of put it on the page, and then now you're sending it out to the world, which is even more sometimes more difficult for people.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and thank you for the kind words.
All right, let's talk again soon. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye bye.